Hello there, this is Out Motorsports. My name is Jake, and we are here at Lime Rock Park today in Connecticut with Subaru to drive the 2022 BRZ. This is a new version of the BRZ for 2022, and we're spending some time both on the main Lime Rock circuit and over at their Autocross circuit, which is another paved part of the facility, driving all iterations of the 2022 BRZ, which is to say both premium and limited trim levels and both manual and automatic transmissions. So let's talk about what is new with the 2022 BRZ, and then let's get behind the wheel and see some autocross time and some racetrack time with both the automatic transmission car and the manual transmission car. All right, before we get started with all of the track driving, let's talk about the basics of the 2022 BRZ. What is really nice about the 2022 is that Subaru actually added a decent amount of weight, a little bit over 100 pounds, but they pulled weight out where they could, so the new car actually weighs about the same as the old one. It's in the mid 2,800 pound range, depending on your options and the transmission you get. As far as drivetrain in these cars, people love the cars but kind of complained that the drivetrain felt a little bit slow in cases there was a bit of a torque dip. And Subaru actually is using a different motor here. This is a 2.4 liter naturally aspirated Boxer 4. It is actually sort of shared with the Ascent, their big SUV. And it makes 228 horsepower here at 7,000 RPM and 184 pound-feet of torque at 3,700 RPM. And then beyond the engine, you still have two transmission choices. Subaru said most buyers of these cars, unlike the sister Toyota 86, actually go for the manual transmission, so of course they've kept it. It is a 6-speed manual transmission. They did do a few things to change the shift action on the 2022 gearbox. If you don't want to row your own, you can still have a 6-speed automatic transmission. It is a torque converter auto. They didn't really seem to change much with the automatic here in the 2022 model year. It's an option if you want it. About 25% of people choose the automatic. And then sending all that power to the rear is a standard Torsen limited slip diff, and you could get that standard with both the manual or automatic. Really appreciate that. So with those facts out of the way, let's get behind the wheel and see how this thing is around the racetrack and the autocross circuit. All right, so thoughts on this car from a track driving perspective with the automatic. It is definitely a playful chassis. You have to really watch it here on stock everything, even with these grippier Michelin tires, because it wants to drift and it will step the tail out. And if you come in hot somewhere, you have to really be careful to save it. Now that said, if you're driving within its limits, it is a very fun car to throw around. And you know, even when the chassis gets light, when you crest these hills, it's controllable. I still don't like the automatic. I think it's a little bit better than the one in the outgoing car, but it is slow to shift. As far as power is concerned, I'm not really wanting for more. This is 228 horsepower. I said with the last car I wanted a little more. I said 230 would be perfect, and I think that's it. All right, and away we go. So this is the stick shift BRZ. They did some things to change up the manual transmission for shift effort, and that was one of my complaints with the outgoing model, is that it was just a little hard to shift every so often. It wasn't necessarily the happiest transmission based on what you were doing. So we'll see how this feels. Definitely a little easier here. Now, all of the stick shift cars that they gave us are on the Michelin Pilot Sport 4 summer tires, so we haven't really driven a car on the all seasons, but crest this hill, hold it straight, yo, there we go. Now the stick shift is definitely geared a little bit differently and shorter, so you're shifting more than in the automatic. Right down into third there. The brakes feel pretty good. You do get some ABS, but that's okay. ABS use on the track is not the worst thing in the world if it's good ABS and if you're not relying on it. And this is really a happy chassis. It likes to be flung around. And you can truly settle the whole chassis just by, a little bit of lift off on the throttle. It'll tuck the nose. I'm having an easier time with the manual. I think I like the gearing of it more for track use. The automatic's not necessarily bad, but I am having more fun in this car because I think the gearing in third and fourth in particular really keep everything on the boil for power, so it feels quicker. And granted, you don't have that torque converter to rob power from you, but getting a little bit of brake fade. You know, if you're doing this often, doing track days in your BRZ, most people I know will do at least some upgraded brake fluid, if not a track pad as well. The stock stuff is fine. You know, we're doing like 4 or 5 laps at a time and letting the cars cool. But if you're looking to do a whole 20, 25, 30-minute session, you're gonna need to do something about the brakes. They are sized okay. It's just the, you know, typical like street fluid, street pads. They're just not super happy all the time. But not a big deal, easy to change out if you're doing more track work with your BRZ than you are street driving. All right, so cool down lap thoughts of the 2022 BRZ with the stick shift. Gearing is definitely better on the stick shift than the automatic for track use. It keeps the engine in the power band. You have to remember, it makes peak torque at 3,700 RPM, but all of your peak horsepower is made at 7,000, so you really want the engine to be in the top half of the revs, and the manual does a little bit better job of that than the automatic for track use in particular. I like the gearing a lot more, and it is a little bit quicker. Otherwise, the chassis in general is delightful. It's easy to fling around, very, very fun car. It is tail happy with the tire pressures that they have going here. We're at about 40 PSI hot. But I think if you drop the tires a little bit, it would be a little less prone to rotate. But the nice thing is, when it does rotate, it's super easy to catch as it is stock. So really, really nicely done. We're gonna head over to the Autocross course now with the manual transmission cars and have a go there, see if we can get them a little more drifty. So let's head on over. All right, so now we're in the manual transmission BRZ, about to do the Autocross course, which is not just a parking lot with cones. It's actually a paved circuit that's got some elevation changes. If you think of almost a kart track that's just big enough to have a couple cars on, that's what it is. And I thought the automatic car was doing a good job because it was, you know, you leave it in one gear, leave it in second gear, and that was no big deal. You can do that here in the manuals as well in second. Second is a happy gear for this little circuit, and you'll see we're kind of treating it a little bit more like almost a drift challenge at this point, just because these cars are so fun to throw around. And I will mention there are 2 different stability control buttons down here behind the shifter. There's one that is just traction control off, and there's another for traction control off and track mode. And what you can actually do is if you push and hold both of them for 4 seconds, it will let you turn everything off completely, and you can slide the car around to your heart's content. It will not really try to save you. It will let you do whatever and, you know, dip a toe in the dirt as you will. All right, let's do it. I mentioned second was a happy gear, so we're just gonna do that. These tires have warmed up. We've got like 48 pounds of air in the rears, so it's very tail happy. It's easy to slide it. Got to look ahead. You can string the turns together a little bit. I'm not saying I'm good at this, but it's certainly fun. In fact, I'm very bad at this, but this is just a lovely chassis. It's so good. It's so lively. Yes, there we go. Woo! I think the stick shift is the one to get, but the automatic is not that bad. It listens to you. It will let you have as much fun as this car. It just is not quite as quick everywhere because the gearing feels a little different. So Subaru agrees with me there. It is slower 0 to 60 in the automatic by, I don't know, a half second or so. And that's why. Just the gearing's a little sus, but overall, they're both phenomenally fun cars. I really like it. If you're looking, you know, these are attainable to a lot of folks. They start at like 27 grand or something, and you know, there are more expensive sports cars, but these just really beg the question, as did the old one. Do you need to spend more money than this to have fun? And I think unless you're really looking for more power or a badge or some options that you can't get on these, like, you know, it's all fine. This is fine. It's great. None of you saw anything.